Never gets old. Never gets old. Oh, wait, I heard a message. No, maybe not. No, it's just backwards audio. It is Thunder. Love walked in. If anybody out there, any of the faithful, listeners of the Yeah Come On show, if somebody knows somebody in that band, just give me permission to play it. Until then, it's backwards. I could pick another song. I just haven't. Because
I
I'm
say we
stubborn.
don't. I say we don't. YouTube kept dinging us way too much.
I mean, we got dinged to hell. We want our money. We've worked hard. This is our 101st show, and the star of the Yeah Come On show is the voice of Rock 100.5. Here we go. I'm Southside Steve. That's my co-host, Brett Barney. It is the Yeah Come On show, and our guest is one Adam Schneider. You heard him? You didn't even know you heard him. You hear him all the time. You probably hear him more than a lot of air personalities. Adam, how you doing, man?
I am doing good. I'm just kind of wondering why you wanted to speak to me, especially for episode 101. I didn't know I was a big enough person to be on the show.
No, you're good for 101. You're just not good enough for 100.
Ah, there we go.
No, I think you're a pretty damn big guest, to be honest with you. I think anybody that does what you do, that has the ability to do what you do, to do what Adam does, first off, you have to know every software there is. He's probably got the biggest screen at work. I'm talking flat screens. He is just so knowledgeable when it comes to what a station should sound like, what to do, what personalities, what audio off of shows to play, voicing it himself. And then writing. I think the writing has a lot to do with it too. It's the whole image of the radio station outside of the music and the talent. So yeah, I think you got a pretty big gig, bro.
Thanks. That's actually, I think the first time I've heard somebody who doesn't directly do my job explain it and describe it perfectly.
There you go. Well, and I get it. I get what you do, and I hear what you do riding down the road. And like I said, when you're having to pick apart shows to try to find that perfect one-liner, that's something I said 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, whatever, and it's timeless, and then how you put it together to make it sound cool and not goofy is a talent. It really is. Most people, it sounds easy. It's hard as hell. And you know how hard it is.
Yeah, there's a bit of a trick or a science. The best thing or the best advice I could give, which will probably, make me lose, I guess, job security right now since I'm giving away the secrets, but work backwards. Find your punchline and then see what has to be there to make it work.
There you go.
That's it. That's literally find that one funny line and then just see what you need to set it up. It's almost like, being a comedian and testing your material, in front of those test audiences before you go out on tour. What you can chop out and what doesn't need to be there while still making it better.
Do you always have, and I guess Brett, you would probably weigh in on this too. Do you always have the perfect, like, you're right? You're like, do you need to run it by somebody? Do you run it by your wife or the people at the radio station, unbeknownst to me, that you talk to? Or do you just like, oh, this is good, I know it's good?
I've actually run stuff by Brett a few times, believe it or not.
That's why I brought him in, because one thing people don't know about Brett is he's a fantastic writer. And I learned that by doing podcasts with him. So, yeah.
It's one of I look at it that, five brains are better than 4, 10 are better than, 5, whatever it is. And I'm just one person. Whereas I know I'm like, right and smack dab in the middle of our demo, but I know I have a certain sense of humor that not everybody does. And I will seek out for my wife, or I'll play things for her. Hey, what do you think? Or I'll just be driving in the car and I'll hear something on the air, not like it. And then the next day or, later that day, go back and tweak things. It's kind of more finding the point of diminishing returns of when to stop than to get the perfect piece on the air. But it's a lot of it, at least pre-COVID, when everybody was all in the station, it was a group effort. Like, we would have weekly meetings and it was just everybody would toss out ideas and I would pull the best ones. And that's where, the best parts of the scripts would come from.
Brett, you were part of those meetings for a minute.
I was. They were fun. That's actually a pretty good group. And the funny thing is, I'll say 90% of some of the stuff you can never use, but it is hilarious. It's just like, you go to a commercial break and you're like, man, I wish we could do this on air, but we would all lose our gigs immediately.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think about you, Adam, when I'm on air, and I'm like, oh, I can say something goofed up right now. I can say something stupid. It works for me. It's so funny. There's moments where I'm like making up stupid things to say just for the laugh. And then there's moments where I really don't even know what the hell I'm talking about and it works. So I'm like, it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of it's a group effort. I will, get emails or texts or, in the hall people say stuff like, hey, Steve said this morning, it'd be great for a sweeper or whomever and whatnot. Because if it was before I wake up or I just happen to not listen or hear, that definitely helps a lot. But yeah, it's one of those things where, and even from like the voice side of things, when I, have worked with other voice talent, or I try and do this because I also, besides Rock 100.5, voice a bunch of other stations throughout the country, is the stuff that is off script. That like just the outtakes and everything, that is usually the fun gold that ends up making it into promos, because that's, whether it's a screw up or a mistake or just a one-liner, that's more of the real life things that really make you look at your radio and be like, did he really just say that? That's kind of the stuff I'm going for all the time if I can.
Yeah, there's a joke I told a few months back that I wish I wouldn't have told that cost me 10 hard working days.
Yeah.
Nothing like a good suspension to get your attention. I'm like, really? Okay. But there are things that we say, and you're right, where I'm like, God damn, should I have said that? Or is that walking the line? It's tough times right now, but I will tell you an interview you can go back and listen to. We did it Wednesday. It was Mr. Wonderful on
Mhm.
Kevin. Is it Kevin O'Leary? I think is his
Yeah.
real
Yeah,
name.
that's his
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
bald one, right?
Yeah, he's a
Yep.
bald
Yeah.
dude. He's the one of the sharks, and he's the abusive shark. He's the one that keeps it real. But he's on today, and I knew Bailey wanted to pimp his little product that he's invented, and I wanted to mention, hey, what can we do for a good trademark? Like, yeah, come on. But I didn't go there. Bailey has invented something. I went with him, and he was waiting on me to bring it up, and I knew he was, and I waited. But I got to tell you, getting through that interview and the way we handled it, and the fact that O'Leary was having some issues talking, the way we played it, Axel wrote both of us instantaneously, and he's like, "Look, that was hilarious. That was hilarious." So there's an interview right there to listen back to. And if you hear that promo, this is the man that did it on Rock 100.5, Adam Schneider. And Brett and I were talking. We're like, he'd be a great guest. We need to get him on. One question because you mentioned it, let's go there real quick, because I want anybody that watches our podcast, first off, I want you to love Brett and I for our stupidity, being idiots, and hot messes. And I'm nowhere near as crazy as I was 25 years ago, but because I'm now married and I have kids and shit. But Brett's now married. As far as I know, his wife's pregnant. I don't look at Brett as a guy that pulls out on time. Sorry. No offense.
Yeah, I'm way too lazy for that.
So I'm waiting on that. But I'll say to you, you mentioned, and I'd like for you to get into it, Adam, for people to learn. There are radio stations across the country. There's smaller stations in smaller cities. And, they're like, hey, we can't afford somebody like you. We can't afford somebody just to do the imaging for our radio station. But if you just do a little bit for us, we can pay you X amount. So when you get done with your duties with Rock 100.5, yeah, there's other imaging to produce. How many radio stations are you doing right now?
So I guess it's a two-part answer. I will just voice a bunch of stations, which if I could just voice, stations and that's it, and just make a ton of money doing that, that'd be the best thing in the world, because obviously the work is a lot less than having to write and produce and all that kind of stuff. So as far as voice, I'm the voice of roughly 20 or so stations, and that is more
awesome. That's awesome.
And that's more where, like, if somebody emails me, hey, basically it's all from email, and they say, hey, here's a script, can you voice this? I try and turn around as soon as I can, because I'm also sitting in that imaging producer chair, and I know waiting and waiting and waiting drives you nuts, and you want everything yesterday. So, and that doesn't take much time. So I'll just stop what I'm doing, cut it, go back into what I'm doing. But as far as producing for a bunch of stations, I've actually lessened the number of stations than what I used to do. That one, it's probably it's 4, I think, is all I'm doing right now, but it's not every day. It's, each one's a couple times a month, and they'll send me like a page or a promo or whatever and say, hey, can you, put this together? And all but one, I'm also the voice of too. So it's really easy to do, but it's one of those, I also, for a bunch of my stations, I will pro bono give them a package of like a bunch of sweepers every month, or a bunch of like some promos or whatever, because they're part of the Cumulus family, those stations. And so I will write thinking more broadly than just specifically Atlanta for certain things, and it's just slap on the call letters, post them to their web, their FTP, done. And that's just, doesn't take much extra time either. So it took me a while to kind of almost assembly line it in my brain where I could do things a lot more efficiently. Because I remember when I first started years ago, I, would start working 9, 10 in the morning, and I wouldn't stop until probably 11 at night. And that was the routine every single day.
That's
And then,
brutal, man. That's
yeah,
brutal.
but then at least I learned how to better, do things and work faster and smarter. And it's now I'm probably putting in, like today, for example, start about 10 in the morning, and I finished probably about a half an hour before cutting this today. So about 7:30 or so is when I was done. And that's about an average day for me, is probably that.
See, that's crazy. And what you're talking about, that's easy for you. It's not easy for anybody else.
Well, I mean,
But you have to produce yourself. And I want to give you, and I'll toss it to you here, Brett. When Brett and I tell you, if you ever want to listen to what we did on Terminus, about the story of the bombing in Centennial Park, the interviewing process, the time that went into it to interview everybody and then voice it. But one thing that Brett did for me is he goes, can you say that differently? Can you do that again? Try that sentence again. Wait,
I learned
okay.
all of that from him.
Yeah, and
all
I was
of that,
gonna
actually.
and that's going back to you, Adam. So when you're doing it, Adam, you're producing yourself. You have to literally listen back and be critical of oneself and say, okay, how should that sound? All right, I'm listening to it. That should sound like this. The same way Brett was telling me, because Brett made me sound so much better than I ever would have sounded. He's like, I need your inflection here. I need your inflection there. And there's a science to it. And I was like, okay, I was just following direction, and Brett was right. So the fact he learned that from you, and that's what people don't get. It's easy when you're riding down the road talking to your buddy, or you're at work and you're like, hey man, yeah, you know what? Damn, man. Yeah, we'll go there. Tell her I said kiss my ass. Well, yeah. But when you're doing a promo and you're doing something that inflection means everything, but it's like you don't notice it. But if you really truly listen, you're like, wow, that was perfect. That was a perfect way to say it. And that's what you guys do. And, Brett, I didn't know. You can talk about learning that from Adam, but I would not have sounded as good as I did without Brett. There's no doubt.
I mean, it's not really voice over. Probably a better term would be voice acting. And there's a lot that goes into it. I started off, doing commercial voiceover, and had a bunch of coaching, and actually flew out to LA to record my first demo years ago. Narration and promo and radio imaging, and there's all these different facets, and I've studied with different coaches from radio and all that. It's definitely helped me sitting in the producer chair, because as I'm writing, you have that sound in your head of how something should be said, whether it's dramatically or tongue in cheek, or off the cuff, or whatever it is. And over the years of having other people come in to voice lines, like often I'd be grabbing like a random salesperson, like, hey, can I use your voice? You voice them for me, or whatever it is, and they have no voice background at all, and they're just winging it. And I've learned there are different ways and different techniques that actually help somebody who's not experienced in it, that will kind of speak to them to say, okay, this is how they should deliver it. And so sitting in the producer chair has definitely helped out. But like, I've had Brett voice a bunch of random things for me, and he, I'm sure, probably translated, the stuff I've said to him and what probably clicked in his brain. And then he kind of transferred that, I guess, to you.
True.
100%.
Remember the time, Brett? Brett's like, I need you to squeal. I need a high pitched sound. I'm like, I'm trying. He goes, just relax.
Yeah.
And I wear, little thin shorts, like dolphin shorts in the 80s. They're like Lulu's. And for no reason, Brett took his thumb and just rammed it right in my bottom.
The best part was we weren't even recording.
And I was like, ah! He goes, that's what I needed. Thank you. And I thought it was professional. I didn't take it as a, you were hitting on me.
My two favorite, my two favorite things to tell people to get them to say something is with females, it works all the time, but to, ask them, just talk to me like you're having phone sex. And usually you'll get the best delivery that you want. And then the other one is I'll tell somebody, just don't give a shit, just say it. And that's usually when you get your best delivery.
There you
It's
go.
the weirdest thing, but it's taking them out of their comfort zone. But like another technique is great is if you really want to get a good way to say something, put the word fuck in front of every emphasis word, and then remove it, but say it the exact same way. So it's like you get that aggression, but it's like this motherfucker, who went to the hotel and such a bastard, but then you remove all those swears, you still get that same emphasis. But it's all these weird techniques.
Well, that's got to be great editing on your part. God forbid an F-bomb go out.
Yeah.
That would suck.
Well, good thing everything's digital now and not the old school reel-to-reel tape, which I actually started on when I was in college, and it was fun,
too.
but it would suck.
I hated it. I cut tape as well. People don't even understand that. I started with dials and toggles on a board.
Well, it's funny too, because like when I've had you, voice stuff, and you've come in and everything, and you still have that old school mentality when you were like, okay, give the 3, 2, 1, and then voice it. I'm like, I can see the waveform here. You don't need to say I could just cut it and all that stuff. But Axel does it too when he's sending me tracks, from Sturgis and whatnot. I'm like, everything's digital. You can see a waveform. It's not like you need to sonically hear it when you're cutting tape, but people still do all those old techniques, and I just kind of laugh. I'm like, all right, just make more work for me.
Yeah, we're old school. I cut out my 3, 2, 1s. Like I cut some D. Geller and Son commercials today, and I go ahead now and I edit them because I've learned. Before, people don't realize as an air personality, technology can pass you by in a heartbeat. I ran the board for 7 years for probably one of the hardest morning shows it was to run a board for, and I did it. And the second I quit 2 years later, I didn't even understand the software. There's no way I could run the damn board. But, when things change, and you're not up with it, you don't get left behind, but you're not the guy anymore. But then again, I've been in the business long enough for me not to be that guy anymore. But it was funny because, when you're sitting in the studio, you get done with your show, you walk down the hall, there's a really great two options of production guys for me to walk into a room. And I'm like, hey, I need to cut some commercials. And I just do it. I just cut it. I leave some, there might be an edit there. And I'm like, okay, 3, 2, 1. And I'm used to doing the 3, 2, 1 because it leaves a distinct waveform where that's where to start. And then, dude, when I'm done, I'm like, are we good? And they're like, we're good. I got it. And I'm like, later.
Yep.
And then a pandemic hits and I'm editing my own shit. So I'm at home. So I'm cutting out all those 3, 2, 1s.
Yeah. Now you're learning.
I'm learning. I'm doing it myself. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on Adobe. I'm learning software. Holy crap. I feel pretty cool down here doing that. But, we'll see when things get back to normal. Again, if you're listening or watching, and again, I encourage to watch because Adam right now has got what I call the white room. I love it when we do Zoom things. I'm like, God dang, his whole studio is white as shit. You just did it all white. I'm like, chairs are white. You're white. The walls are white.
It's because everything that's on the wall is actually in front of me, so I can actually take a look at it. But I got, metallic autographed drum heads and, other paintings over here and whatnot. It's just behind me because through those doors, that's my voice booth.
What do you have that's the voice booth in that door. Did you get
that's just a closet right there that I completely just constructed and converted.
Damn
ripped
right.
open the walls, everything.
Well, I sent you a nudie. I don't know if you've got it, but I sent you one just to inspire you. I don't know.
There we go.
You can just put that up, frame it up. But again, we are talking to the voice of Rock 100.5 and other stations around the nation. Can you just mention just real quick a few stations that you do?
Yeah. So the Cat in Oklahoma City. I'm on 96 Rock in Cincinnati, which was where Axel was when he left us for 6 years or something like that.
That's our afternoon guy. And Axel was on 99X and then on Rock 100.5, went to 96 there and was a program director in Cincinnati. Now he's our boss here in Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm on the air in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada for Y108.
You ain't
Um,
American. What do you do?
I've been on
Do
the
you have
air.
to put A at the end of everything?
Not it's
Hey,
weird. Only
You
a
should.
couple of times. I started doing that like when I first started. I'm like, should I be saying this, or is that kind of like an insult, like drinking Molson in Australia, where they don't love it? But he's like, no, actually, on a couple things, yeah. I'm like, really? All right. But I've been on the air in Seattle, Minneapolis, Los Angeles.
see,
So
that's cool. That just lets you guys know what this dude does. So can you say something for Rock 100.5 where you can ring a bell here? Can you do a little quick promo for me? Give me a little something.
now back to Bailey and Southside on Rock 100.5.
I mean, stop.
Dude, that was literally my first
Stop.
question.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, let me mention sponsors and toss it to my co-host.
Brett's got nothing to say now.
Yeah. And he's like, damn it, it's all I had, man. This is the Yeah Come On Show, the podcast brought to you by Circle 285. Again, just go to circle285.com, tell them your information, get a quote on car, home, the whole deal, and see if you're paying too much. They'll give you a free quote. Why not? Why not find out what you could be paying with a company or even a better company? Also, oxygenfinancial.com with Ted Jenkins will help you with all your financial needs. And then there's Ridgeline Counseling. Our guest last week, Dr. Dave Markwell, who is a fantastic counselor, whether it's just relationships, marriages, or you individually, or kids, whoever needs it, need to talk to somebody. I feel like a lot of people do. So those are the sponsors of the Yeah Come On Show. I now turn it over to Brett Barney, my co-host. Please do not attack the voice of Rock 100.5.
Oh no, you know me. I got to butter him up before I break him down, right? I will
Mhm.
actually say this. So Adam and I worked together for 9+ years. We know each other for a while. We're friends. I saw that this past weekend was like 5 years ago is when we flew to Minnesota together to go see Metallica, which was absolutely insane. Definitely Adam hooked us up with that. It was awesome. When we were doing Terminus, we hadn't released any of the audio, but it was getting ready to drop. And I made that first promo for it where you voiced and had Matt Dorr and the Bomb and all the people in it. And I remember that morning it aired. And when I got in, Adam came to my desk. He's like, "You made that? That's really good." And I was like, "Holy crap. I actually did something right. If Adam's telling me a commercial's good, I must have crushed it because I really wasn't sure what I was doing on it." And that was my first time really messing with Adobe that heavily because I kept going to him and being like, "Okay, how do I do this? How do I do that?" It was a new software. As you were saying, if you don't use certain things, it can throw you off. So I thought that
So
was
is now
really
a bad time
cool.
to tell you I was lying?
No,
Damn it.
I'm gonna
I'm
keep
just
it in my
kidding.
brain.
Brett, that was to keep you trying. I just wanted you to stay in the business.
Dangle the carrot.
Yeah.
No, actually, so it's funny. My first question I had written down was when you're out in public and somebody's like, "Hey, all right, so what do you do for a living?" You're like, "I'm the voice of Rock 100.5." Or they're like, "Say something." How often
I
does
get that.
happen?
I don't usually say that though. Literally, I'll just say I talk for a living a lot of times. Or I'll say, basically a lot of the way, like if it's they really want me to get in depth, the way Steve described it at the beginning of this whole thing, but or I'll say I'm a voice actor, and then they'll go, "Oh, what do you voice?" And then I'll get into some stations and all that kind of stuff. But
Just lie
mostly,
to him and say Days of Our Lives.
I mean, I've said that I sell Avon products door to door before just to shut people up. I mean, but because when I was first starting in radio, living back home in Boston, we would go out. My cousin, who is does what I do, just a lot better and a lot more famous, and he's on a lot more stations. Um, he was actually the voice of Q100 or Q99.7, but when it was Q100 for like 7 years. But he's on TV and everything. But anyways, we'd be out to lunch and random people would find out that we worked at the radio station there and start buttering us up for tickets all the time. So then it was just a running joke. Okay, what are we going to be today when we go out to lunch? And it was selling Avon products door to door, working at Boston Market. They're,
Y'all are like
we're
the
butchers
wedding
at the deli.
crashers. You're like,
Yeah,
yeah,
whatever it
it's
is.
like we own a maple syrup conglomerate.
Yeah, the more ridiculous, the better. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really come up that much, except more with friends or like colleagues or, of my wife or something where I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm the husband. Oh, what do you do? Then it comes up.
Right. That's cool.
Wait, so do you give them the free tickets?
No, I will give, I mean, you know me, I mean, I'll give, if we have them to friends or, that I know really are fans and really want to go, that kind of thing. But, or, family, like, Ashley's parents, my parents, that type of thing when they're in town. But overall, I mean, it's, I, if there's extra, but it's like, nah,
Yeah, I'm with
I
you.
try not to.
Have you have you ever used a fake name on air?
No.
So you've always just gone by your own real name? You
Yeah,
so
I mean,
you and I are
well,
similar in that.
I mean, I'm not obviously not on the air as far as, like Steve is on the air, people, go on the website and you see, okay, on air and there's Steve's name and Jason's name and everybody else's name. I'm not a DJ like that. But when I first started out, the dream was, hey, I'm going to be a DJ on the air. So I started out and my high school had a radio station. I started there. And then the last time I was on the air in a market, it was one of those that they told me, oh, by the way, you're going to, be on overnights, and I hadn't been on the air in at least 6 or 7 years, so I was very rusty. It was in Miami, and I just used my first name. That was it.
Yo, it's Adam. It's
Yeah,
2 a.m. What are y'all
yeah,
doing? Call
yeah.
me.
I was overnights on the weekend, so when everybody's like pulling into the strip clubs or whatever, that's when you hear me, segueing, from Peaceful Easy Feeling into Journey or something. It was a classic hit
Yes.
station.
Hey, this is Don't Stop Believing. And believe in me, Adam, your friend. And if you're sexy and you're hot, call me.
Yeah, that in between, commercials for arthritis pills and Depends.
No, that's scary. There's not an overnight DJ, by the way, that has not had sex in the studio with a listener and brought them up without management or anybody knowing. At least I did a couple of mine just down in the park lot. I'm like, I would put on a perfect album side and just be like, we have exactly 28 minutes. And this chick goes, watch this, and puts her hand in her mouth. I'm like, what's up? What's up? By the way, you're nowhere near as hot as you said you are, but I don't care. Put your hand in your mouth. And then you're like, look, crap, I got to get upstairs now. And you go in and it's like, and you're like, oh, program director calls, what in the hell? Sorry, I had to go to the bathroom. All those great overnight stories.
Yep.
I have to ask this because I've heard this before. Rumor or not, did you help kill 99X?
Oh, the original
Yeah.
version?
Don't answer that.
You
Don't
might
answer.
not want. You can.
No, I'll
plead
answer
the
it.
fifth.
No.
If you're asking me, I think it's fantastic.
The answer is yes.
Oh,
I was when I was first brought to Atlanta, I was brought to Project 961, and that was the mission statement, was to kill 99X. I was just, putting together all the, imaging and sweepers and promos and everything. And
oh,
then
you worked for that guy, Chris, that had
yep,
me
Chris,
fired.
yep.
Ain't that great?
Yeah, I worked
You
for
know a
two
lot of
years.
a lot of people died at 96 Rock.
Oh,
So
I do.
y'all are just murderers. You killed a classic rock station and we're all gone. And then Project comes on and you're like, what the F? And then you're like, well, let's go kill somebody else.
But I will say I did also bring back 99X as well. So, but yeah, when I first met my wife,
By the way,
when I
you're
told
still
her,
not going to heaven, Adam.
I,
That was so
but no, when
wrong.
she when I first met her, she told would tell me all the legend of 99X. I'm not from Atlanta, so I didn't really know
Sure.
how huge it was. I didn't know how huge 96 Rock was and
Oh,
all that from the Northeast. And when I came here, 96 Rock was already gone. It was already on Project, and then 99X was on its last legs, as far as the different forums and everything. And so I told my wife was telling me about this, and I said, "Oh yeah, I kind of was told to, that was a mission statement." And she like, "Really? I fucking hate you." But the fact that at our wedding, Axel and Matt Jones was at our wedding, and she's like, "Okay, I grew up listening to these guys and all that stuff on
yeah.
99X." So it made it up for it a little bit, and then bringing back 99X, although it's not nearly the same as what it was.
Yeah,
But
and I don't know what they're doing with 96 Rock. I hear that I'm on the air there, and I'm like, are they even allowed to do that?
yeah,
But they're playing back old shows, so
yeah, I don't know.
it was tough times, man. That was a messed up year
Mhm.
when they killed the Rock. But didn't know you were the guy that joined that team and then went after 99X. Thanks, Brett. Learning a lot. Adam, dick. No,
Hey, if it makes it feel better, they canned me on Obama's inauguration day when they cut like 3,000 people nationwide. So
well,
I got screwed over too.
They're tough. They're tough over there, and I'll tell you right now that didn't work. And you know, it was a mistake all along. And I don't even know where that dude is. I don't even speak his last name. He's toolbox.
Very high up on the iHeart chain right now.
What that? You know, he's not a bad guy.
No,
honestly.
he's not.
Oh, Steve, I love you.
He's a 4-hour drive north of Nashville if you want to go say hi.
Kick him in the nuts. There was a situation at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I'm like, dude, because they kept using "yeah, come on," and they forced me to get an attorney to stop them, and it cost me some bucks. He goes, "The station didn't pay for that." I go, "Do you really think the station paid for that for me to fight you for my little word,
Trademark,
my phrase, my trademark?" And he goes, I said, "Dude, I want to hit you so bad." He goes, "There's a lot of people around right now." I said, "Yeah, and I don't think anybody's going to pull me off of you." So that was kind of like my last words. He knew what he did. He was a dick. So maybe he's not a dick anymore. I don't know, but dickish behavior deserves a little hate, in my opinion.
Oh, I got hazed a little bit when I first, came to, to Rock 100.5, and everybody's like, "Well, you used to work at Project," and yeah, I wasn't liked well by some people for at least a few months.
Yeah, I honestly get past it, just like I do with this dude. I'm like, you do what you do. Obviously, people were listening to you, so you definitely had something going your way. But my thing is, I love Atlanta. Unlike I'm not saying you don't, but you didn't grow up here. You didn't know what was the kill of all kills, which was 96 Rock's death. There was no way that should have been somebody's wet dream to destroy 99X, to destroy that station. But that's a whole nother podcast. Go ahead, Brett.
Okay, so when I knew Adam was coming on, I was like, okay, there's 3 topics that I have to talk about. So I'm getting past radio, and I got to get into this next one. Adam is actually my go-to guy. He's like my fantasy football guru. And we were talking fantasy football before we were getting started, but I'm just going to throw out some random fantasy questions just to get started before I kind of dig in a little bit. What is the least amount of people in a league, in a fantasy football league, that you need for it to not be a joke?
10.
So 10. You got to have at least 10 people. Otherwise,
I think 8 is a joke, but there's a lot of leagues of 8. I think you need at least 10. 12 if there's no added stipulations like salary cap leagues or whatever to make it really competitive. You want to go nuts? I've been in some leagues that are 16 or 18 teams.
Yeah.
There's some deep rosters there. You better learn like every random rookie and everything.
Yeah, I'm in a 14, a 12, and a 12. So I got 2 12s and a 14. And the 14 is our family league. And my brother's like, "Oh no, we're not doing Zoom. We're going to do it the old fashioned way." So we sit there and you get $100 and you got to spend your money wisely and go in and buy your players.
Oh, an auction league. Nice.
Total auction. And it's brutal. And you look at somebody round 1 spends $37 for a quarterback. You're like, what are you doing, man? We got a long night here.
I think Adam just got back from one of his drafts. You do like the destination drafts.
Yeah. So my favorite league that I'm in, and I still have yet to find another league that is like it anywhere. This one, the draft is a normal snake draft, but it's a salary cap league where every player has an assigned salary, which is based off of their cumulative stats of the last 3 years. So you have to think like an actual NFL GM. And this year is the 26th year of the league, and I think I've been in it for 22 of them.
So you started early when it was listed as kind of a nerdy thing to do. Yeah, Bailey, who I work with too on Rock, same thing. He was in 21 years ago, and his is a destination. He has to fly down to Florida, and that's old school. I'm like in my 8th or 9th year. I got turned on to it, but it gave me a reason to watch football. So I get it.
Yeah, you watch games you normally never watch because of it and everything. But yeah, I just got back from Vegas.
Damn.
This year, which was nice. So we held the draft in the Venetian.
Very cool. Very cool.
So that leads me to my next one. How early is too early to draft? Because none of my drafts have taken place yet, and I hate drafting while preseason's still going on, thanks to Michael Vick breaking his leg.
The ideal time is right between the last preseason game and the first game of the season.
I agree.
Realistically, though, with people's schedules and all that kind of stuff, I think they're at least, since now we're in 3 preseason games a year, I would say at least no earlier than that second weekend. But if this was previous years, it'd be the third weekend.
Yeah, you're right. I've got one. We're 2 games in. I've got one Thursday of this week, or this week, and then I've got one Tuesday of next week.
I mean, it's more like injuries is the biggest reason, but it's also a little like, especially in my salary cap league, because we got to know all these random players that aren't drafted in other leagues. It's seeing who's going to win the training camp battles and things like that.
What's the money like? Are you going to ask that, Brett? I'm just curious. What kind
Oh
of
yeah,
money
you can fire that out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in that one league, it's $150 buy-in to start, and then you're only allowed during the regular season 7 ad drops, and that's it. The first 6 or $5. The 7th one is $10. And you also are not allowed, once you either trade away a player or drop a player, you cannot reacquire them for the rest of the season. So you better be damn sure of your move. And you're allowed 2 trades with every other team, and those are $5 a piece each. But in the preseason, you're allowed unlimited ad drops. So the money can kind of get up there. Yeah, usually winner gets about $750 or so.
Okay.
I would have thought it was going to be more than that.
No, they was, because the winner gets half. The loser of the Super Bowl, the second place person, gets a quarter, and then we have a commissioner of the league that all he does is all the numbers. He doesn't have a team. He gets the other quarter for running the entire thing.
Yeah, he does. That's a lot.
And then although we just passed this year before the draft, we're going to have for the highest scoring team, which usually you get screwed over by bye weeks, or you run into just somebody that week who happen to have a better score. So there's going to probably get your buy-in back for that. And then the worst team is going to be one of those penalty things, like they're going to have to take the SAT or some ridiculous stipulation.
I love it. Ours was a brand. You get branded or tattooed, and the L, it's an L, and it has to be the size of a dime. An L on your butt. You put it anywhere on your body you want.
Yeah.
Guys are putting it on their butt cheeks.
Yeah, we kind of said nothing permanent, like a tattoo, and then nothing that would possibly like damage a car, like a bumper sticker or anything like that.
Oh, that sucks. All right, let's get into this. Who are your sleepers this year? I didn't even ask him this before the show, but Steve, you might want to write some of these down if he's
okay. I'll go by position, and this isn't strictly sleeper for all of these. These are also probably players I like better than others do. Quarterback, I am really, and this is not a former homer pick, I am really, really high on Tom Brady this year, meaning I think he'll be better than he was in 2007. This will be his best year ever.
Wow.
And you can probably get him, the 7th, 8th quarterback easy in the draft. Another, 2 others that I like as will probably outperform where they're being drafted. Matt Stafford, finally, he's got a good offensive line and a good offense, and somebody who knows how to coach him in Los Angeles. And also Ryan Tannehill, with the addition of Julio Jones, will help out a lot. And as far as sort of sleeper, whereas I would probably not really sleeper much anymore after the preseason, but I see him possibly, after starting with week 7, after his team's bye, possibly being like Mahomes was a couple of years ago of his first season, is Trey Lance.
Nice.
For running back, it's kind of funny because Brett was mentioning this one league he's in, his PPR. All of these are basically non-PPR picks because none of them really catch passes out of the backfield. Joe Mixon, I think, is going to have a career year this year. Again, everything is assuming health, but with Joe Burrow back there, with all the wide receiver weapons, although if Jamar Chase can actually catch a ball instead of drop them all, it'd be nice. I don't know if you saw the news today of Travis Etienne done for the season. So obviously James Robinson gets a bump up in Jacksonville. Total homer pick, but I think he's going to probably put up about 1,500 total yards and 12 or so touchdowns. Damian Harris in New England. It's probably a top 3 running back, possibly would be like Henry from last year, Nick Chubb. I like Nick Chubb a lot. And then another one, a good value pick because he just fell into the starting lineup, is Darrell Henderson in the Rams because there's no Cam Akers.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
Wide receivers.
I like that.
Wide receivers, these are all rookies, well, except for one, but may as well be, but these are all really, really, they're not super secretive anymore. Callaway in New Orleans, obviously we saw this 2 awesome catches. Was it last night or the night before? I love both the Moores, Rondale Moore in Arizona and Elijah Moore for the Jets, 2 rookies. And then also for Carolina, Terrace Marshall Jr., who's just a complete burner. And then for tight ends, which I kind of hate tight ends, I do think the number 1 tight end this year is not going to be Travis Kelce. I think it's going to be Darren Waller.
Not playing for the Atlanta Falcons. You don't see anything there? Nothing?
Kyle Pitts. I like Kyle.
I'm about to say,
Pitts
you're not on a Pitt train. I'm a little on a Pitt train.
I'm not, because for some weird reason, although if there is a player that can do it, it's Kyle. But for some reason, tight ends have a tough time translating to the NFL from college their first year. I don't know what it is. It's just because TJ Hawkinson was supposed to be the next Gronk. What has he done?
Yeah,
he hasn't really done that. It's just for some reason that first year, even Gronk, his first year wasn't that great.
So give me your 2 tight ends that you like the best.
I like Darren Waller as my number 1 tight end, but he's probably the 2nd or 3rd off the board. So you're gonna have to spend money. Other ones that you can get a little cheaper, these are deeper ones. I think Jonnu Smith is going to be the passing answer in New England. Pat Freiermuth in Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh loves their tight ends, and he's been showing really well so far. And then Irv Smith in Minnesota. Those are my sleeper tight ends. And then Darren, I think, is going to be a returning wide receiver 1 numbers for you.
Wow. Good stuff.
This guy is a machine.
He is. I
love it.
You thought he did radio well. Check this out, man.
Yeah.
I mean, wide receiver, it's so deep though. That's why I'm talking like your 4th, 5th receivers for the ones I mentioned. I mean, obviously, players, DK Metcalf, everybody knows, and and all. And I do like Terry McLaurin a lot this year. I think Fitz is just gonna, tunnel vision him the whole time.
Wow. That's good stuff. Yeah, I was looking at the tops right now. Mahomes is number 1, at least in the lineup I'm looking at. Then you got Aaron Donald and Aaron Rodgers, and then you got Tom Brady, number 4.
Brady is every report out of Tampa is he is throwing lights out. He another if you're looking for PPR, very deep sleeper running back, Gio Bernard. That's his new James White. He specifically asked for Gio Bernard, told the Tampa Bay to go out and get him, and Tom gets what he wants, but he also will throw to those guys. And he's got all the wide receiver targets in the world. I even think if you're looking for around round 9 or 10, Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I like that. I like Antonio. I think he's got his head on. We all know he can play.
He's good for 906, probably. I think Antonio will be.
Yeah,
I love the 6. 906.
I think he'll be better with touchdowns than he will with yardage.
Yeah, they've got Derrick Henry up in there too, man.
Oh yeah, he's a beast.
He's a monster.
I mean,
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Derrick Henry, and it's not if, it's when. And I don't think it's necessarily this year, but with all the carries he has had the last couple of years, you're just waiting for the wheels to come off. But that guy is just built like a truck.
Yeah,
that I think will go a little bit longer than your average running back, but I think realistically you maybe have 1, maybe 2 years tops.
I know Brett
Derrick Henry.
You love him, Brett. I know.
Yeah, baby, roll tide. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean it's just 400 carries a year. That's a lot.
So after all this Tom Brady love, it's funny that I did right. Do you still love Brady and Gronk? And how many fans did the Pats lose when they left to the Buccaneers?
I'll answer the second question first. 0. Well, fair weather fans.
Come
sure.
on.
Well, fair weather fans, yes. Anybody who is a true fan, like in New England, they didn't lose any. But like the ones in the rest of the country, sure. But as far as the Brady and Gronk, I have no love loss for Brady at all. He did everything right. Gronk, there is love lost there because he, I think, to the Patriots kind of screwed him over. Was like, oh, I'm retiring and everything like that because he only wanted to play with Brady and didn't want to go through the camp year or go through with camp or whatever it was. And no, it was the final Brady year.
Was it?
Banged up. It was the final Brady year when they lost to Tennessee and they had like no tight end at all. And then he's like, oh, I feel better now. I want to, come out of retirement. Trade me.
Yeah, trade me.
Really?
So did it hurt watching them win the Super Bowl?
The only hurt, I guess, was seeing Brady's 6th Super Bowl, and it wasn't the record breaker for the Patriots to go over Pittsburgh. That was the only hurt.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Now I know. So radio,
There's actually a bigger question. I'm surprised as a Patriots fan you didn't ask me.
Well, what is it?
What about your coach having sex with porn stars? No.
Now,
Not
That
your
was the
coach.
owner.
Your owner.
would I trade those 5 Super Bowl rings for that perfect season?
I don't think you would.
If you asked me if it was 3 Super Bowl rings, yes. Now with 5 or 6 or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think you would.
But if you asked me before their second run, yes, in a heartbeat.
So, your radio, you've got fantasy football, and the last topic I have to discuss with you is concerts. And I kind of want to talk with both of you guys about this because you guys are both big concert heads, and everybody knows Steve was out there getting it in out on the dance floor for years. How many concerts have each of you guys been to? Do you even have
Jesus
clue?
No, I'd have to kind of guess, okay, how many maybe per year and just extrapolate from there.
Yeah.
Or start like per week or per month and then go up.
Over under 500.
Over. Easy.
Oh, over.
Way
over.
Under
1,000.
Under.
When I was in Columbus, I was averaging 1 to 2 a week. And so that over, 52 weeks a year, there's 100 right there.
Now,
roughly, 50 to 100 right there. And been in radio, because obviously radio is when it's really jumped up. Before radio, I was going to 5 a year or something. And been in radio, 10 or 12 years now. So it's obviously back here in Atlanta, it's really jumped up a lot. And this year with rock concerts, it's absolutely insane, especially for the next couple of months. So I would ballpark it around 700 maybe.
Yeah,
I've forgotten a lot. I've forgotten a lot of concerts.
I was gonna say I'm definitely above 5. I don't think I'm over 1,000, but I'm in that 8 to 900 only because I went to a lot of shows before radio, camped out for a lot of shows. That's what me and the group I ran with, we just went to a lot of concerts. Then getting into radio with 26 years, I've seen a lot, gone to a lot. It's like I've seen them 5 times, seen them 4 times, seen them 3 times. But then there's a few that have eluded me or I just didn't go see that I kind of kicked myself. Never saw Tom Petty. I'm kicking myself. Should have seen him.
Yeah, I got close with that. I saw Mudcrutch when they were just at the Tabernacle, and that's as close as I got to Tom Petty. But all he was doing was standing in the back, playing bass, not near a microphone. So did I really see Tom Petty? I don't know. Rush is a big one I never saw.
I've seen Rush too many times. I just don't like them, but I go.
I mean, honestly, for me, my biggest one that I've seen the most and probably my favorite to see live now is Metallica. The one I wish I would have seen is Queen with Freddie. I saw Queen without Freddie, but obviously not with Freddie. That's probably my favorite band of all time. But Metallica I've seen probably 10 times. But yeah, now it's to the point where unless it's a band I really want to see, if I'm kind of on the fence, I'll ask my wife and we'll say, what are we doing that night? Do we really care? And now for me, going to concerts and especially being in the position I'm at, being at a radio station, so more access, it's more about making my wife or a friend or a family member really excited or happy to see a band that they hadn't seen or they're a big fan of, or get to meet them backstage or whatever the situation is. I get more joy out of that now than just the selfish part of it, because I can't really name anybody that I haven't met that I want to, or see a band that I haven't seen yet, that kind of thing. That's very rare. So it's more just about kind of, seeing the reaction to others.
Yeah, there's a few out there when you say the legends, rock legends like The Who. Just didn't appeal to me. Never saw them, but I'm like, if they were around, I'd probably go see them. I've seen one version of Pink Floyd. I've
never seen Floyd.
Yeah, I saw Division Bell and it was awesome. I was blown away. But Division Bell was just a lot of cooler, slicker than the overall, intensity of the brick in the wall and that kind of stuff. But I've seen that now too. So you pick your Floyds, but the Journey's my guys.
Yeah,
obviously I've seen them.
I mean, we all have obviously our favorites or whatever that we'll see every time. And for me, probably remove personal musical taste from the equation. But as far as best live bands from a performance standpoint, if I had to probably rate my top 5 that everybody's got to see at least once in no particular order, it's Metallica, U2, Tool, Muse, and
Limp Bizkit.
No, I don't know that 5th one. Maybe
Loverboy.
Maybe for a newer band, maybe Shinedown. They put on an amazing show, but I don't
I
know if
like
I.
Shinedown. I've never seen them either, but I
They're
like
really, really. They're one of my favorite bands.
yeah.
I don't know who the fifth band would be. I'm
Fourth,
sure it's somebody really.
you got to go AC/DC, my opinion.
AC/DC is the loudest band I've ever seen by
Yeah.
far.
But
Like,
they rock. They don't care how they look. You know, I
mhm.
think people should see Kiss, just
Foo
because.
Fighters is up there.
Yeah, Foo Fighters. Haven't seen Foo Fighters.
Yeah, I'm kind of speaking of Kiss. I'm kind of upset because I've seen them a bunch, but my wife, when we were living in Miami, I was like, she's not a Kiss fan of their music. She thinks it's very hokey, which it is. It's
It
very
is.
elementary the way it's written and all that stuff. But I'm talking up like the whole show with the pyro and Gene
Let's put
flying
the X
over.
in sex and
Yeah,
jeans
and
over
all
your
the
head.
and like Gene, Gene flying up to the lighting truss and Paul flying
Ah,
out to the small stuff and the blood and everything and the fire. And so we got tickets to see them at Hard Rock Live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's a small 4,000 seat venue. I'm like, holy crap, Kiss in the small venue. This is amazing. All they had was that giant Kiss logo in lights behind the drums, and that was it. Nothing else of their show was there. And she's like, that's it. I'm like, no, that's not it. So this is supposedly their final tour, though. They say that all the time.
sure.
This upcoming Sunday, they're at Lakewood, and it's her dad's birthday, and we can't go. So I'm
Oh,
like, well, I guess she's never really gonna see Kiss.
she's not. She have to view it. You're right. Kiss is a
Yeah.
show. Judas Priest in their heyday. A
Mhm.
few bands really put on a show. Even Iron Maiden, a band I don't
Yep.
like. But pyrotechnics and just visuals and large things that come out and pick up people. I mean, it's pretty
Slipknot
cool.
is like that too. I mean, they have like 10 members in the band, and it's just crazy, especially if you like drums.
Yeah.
That's actually so. I actually have two last questions. You guys can both fire on these. Most underrated band that you've seen live that puts on an amazing performance. You can say band or performer.
I'll answer that, but with a caveat that this band should be a lot bigger than what they are. Seven Dust.
I agree with Seven Dust is a good one. Totally. I know those guys, like
Mhm.
those guys. They should be bigger. Other bands like that, just because I grew up here, I'd say Driving and Crying should be bigger than they
Mhm.
were. And definitely my boys, my second favorite band, Collective Soul, should be bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the last one. And both you guys, you're being in the rock world. This is a great question for you. What is the don't miss show for the rest of the year here in Atlanta in your mind?
I
For
guess
me,
you're gonna say
well,
Metallica, aren't you?
I would, but then I'm kind of thinking with what happened today, would it have to switch to the Rolling Stones?
Possibly. I mean,
Although you're not going to see Charlie either way. He wasn't going to be on this tour, but it's one of those. If you haven't seen him yet, I think it might be one of those see them before they die kind of aspects.
yeah, they say Keith Richards will be the last man to die
Yeah.
ever in the history of the world.
True.
I'm with you. I've seen the Stones 4-5 times. I've gone up in their blimp. I've
Mhm.
stoned it to death. Love those guys. That's a show to see. If you've never seen the Stones, that's a must to see. I would agree with you on the Stones too. Not just because we just lost Charlie this week, but yeah, I mean, Mick is a true performer, a true frontman, and just their grooves and the way Keith plays and stuff, you need to see it.
I mean, some of the other probably smaller ones coming up though this year that aren't the obvious of those two that we mentioned. I think to see 21 Pilots at center stage would be pretty damn cool because a band that easily sells out State Farm Arena is playing a 900 seat venue. Um, Shinedown, if you haven't seen them at the Fox Theater, I think will be a cool venue to
I
see
need to
that
see
band.
that. I got to go see
Um,
that.
I think that's all I can really think of right now off the top of my head like that. But another band, if you've never seen before, since obviously Zeppelin's one of the biggest bands and it's impossible to see them right now. If you haven't seen and they're playing the Roxy later this year sometime, it used to be called Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Experience and now it's Led Zeppelin Evening because for copyright issues. But it's one of those, if you close your eyes, it's Zeppelin. The lead singer, I don't know his name, he's bald, looks nothing like Plant, but he sounds exactly like him. That band is Zeppelin reincarnated. Obviously, you got John's son, as the anchor, but it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I like Bonham had that one hit, in the 80s. And I
Yeah.
saw when they were when they were given, what is it? Were they knighted or what do you call it? We get the rainbow ribbon in New York.
In New
What
York.
I'm
Honored?
trying
I
to
don't
think.
know.
Maybe whatever they were inducted in something. Wasn't the Hard Rock, the Hall of Fame, but it's just where they sit up there in the balcony and they watch. But Hart did did a song, and I can't even remember the song. I probably should not have brought any of this shit up. But Bottom was the drummer, and when he walked out, they all were like, "Oh my God!" So you can see there's a love.
Battle of Evermore, was it?
Huh?
Battle of Evermore?
No, wasn't that?
I know, because I know if Heart's covered that one.
Yeah, Heart. It was damn it. I mean, it's on my Facebook, but I want to look at it. But trust me, look it up. Heart Zeppelin. You'll find it. The band that we need to mention that I do not listen to riding down the road. You'll never hear me listen to them in my car or even at my house. I'll switch the channel, but they're fantastic live as Aerosmith.
My opinion, the greatest American rock and roll band.
They are fantastic live. You ever get a chance to see Aerosmith?
I agree. They're fun. That's a party.
They sucked when I saw them.
Really?
But yeah, Steven Tyler went to rehab 3 days later. They didn't sing the song from Armageddon. They didn't sing, that's how big a fan I am. I don't even know their dance.
Well, I mean, their only number one hit they didn't even write. So
everyone was cheering for ZZ Top to come back on. But yeah, that was all I have.
Oh, is that when he actually fell off the stage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
not good, man.
It was a shit show. It was bad.
But you know what? You kind of were there for it. It was Stairway to Heaven's what they sang.
Oh yeah.
And it was live at the Kennedy Center Honors. It's the Kennedy Center that they did that. And, Hart still has it enough, but Bonham did the drums, and it was just badass watching it. It was really cool. Well, look, I just want to thank you for coming on, Adam. We've talked about your three loves. You've definitely helped me with fantasy football. I think for those rock and roll heads, you do have a kick-ass rock station in Atlanta. It's called Atlanta's Rock Station. To me, Rock 100.5 is the new 96 Rock. That was what we said we were going to do in 2008. That's what we meant to do. That's what we're doing. I know there's all this, tags and stuff rolling around, and I love it, but I work for Rock 100.5 and it kicks ass. And there's the voice of Rock 100.5 in Atlanta, one Adam Schneider, my co-host Brett Barney. It's been a fun one, and I think we all learned a lot. It is the Yeah Come On Show, brought to you by Circle285.com, OxygenFinancial.com, as well as Ridgeline Counseling, Dr. Dave Markwell, located in Marietta. Look it up if you need to talk to somebody. Yeah, come on.